When two of the Middle East's most powerful rivals collide, the world holds its breath. Missiles light up the night sky, alliances fracture, and nuclear red lines blur. This isn't just another regional conflict, it's a global fault line. In today's episode, we dive deep into the Israel-Iran war, the origins, the stakes, and the power games shaping our world order. Hello, and namaste to everyone, and welcome to Unscripted Affairs. In the heart of the Middle East, two giants stand opposed. Israel, a technological powerhouse with Western backing, and Iran, a revolutionary force with deep regional influence. Their clash isn't just about borders or ideology, it's about control of a volatile region, energy routes, and the balance of power from the Mediterranean to the Gulf. Welcome to the frontline of a conflict shaking the global order. Operation Rising Lion, launched by Israel on June 13, 2025, was a sweeping and highly coordinated military offensive aimed at crippling Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure. The operation began with a wave of covert drone strikes, reportedly prepositioned by Mossad operatives, which disabled key radar and communication systems across Iran. At around 1 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, Netanyahu publicly announced the launch of Operation Rising Lion. Within minutes, over 200 Israeli fighter jets, including F-35s, roared into Iranian airspace. Their targets were surgically chosen: the Natanz nuclear enrichment facility, ballistic missile factories, IRGC command centers, and even the residence of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The strikes were devastating. Explosions rocked Tehran, Isfahan, Arak, and Kermanshah. High-rise buildings housing senior military officials were reduced to rubble. The IRGC's commander-in-chief, Hossein Salami, was reportedly killed. Iran's airspace was immediately shut down, and global airlines scrambled to reroute flights. Israel's goal was clear: eliminate Iran's nuclear threat before it became irreversible. The operation was not just military, it was psychological, strategic, and symbolic. The name, Rising Lion, itself was drawn from a biblical verse, signaling Israel's resolve to rise and strike before being struck.
Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium.
In retaliation for Israel's Operation Rising Lion, Iran launched Operation True Promise 3, a massive, multi-phase counterstrike that marked one of the most intense escalations in the Israel-Iran conflict to date. The operation began on the evening of June 14, 2025, under the spearhead of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Iran unleashed a barrage of ballistic missiles and drones targeting Israeli cities including Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. What made this retaliation especially significant was Iran's use of AI-assisted missile tactics. The IRGC deployed a decoy saturation strategy, flooding Israeli airspace with both real and fake targets to overwhelm the Iron Dome and other defense systems. Some missiles even altered their trajectory mid-flight, making them harder to intercept. The strikes hit military bases, airfields, power stations, and scientific research centers, causing widespread damage. A cyber attack also reportedly disrupted Israel's civil defense alert system, sending spoofed messages to civilians and causing mass confusion. Iran claimed the operation was a crushing, precise response to the deaths of top IRGC commanders and nuclear scientists in the Israeli strikes. The global fallout was immediate. The U.S. deployed missile defense assets, the U.K. sent fighter jets to the region, and airspace over Iran and Israel was shut down. The world watched as two regional powers edged dangerously close to full-scale war. Following the initial military exchange, the Israel-Iran conflict spiraled into a devastating infrastructure war. Israel intensified its campaign by targeting Iran's vital energy assets, crippling the South Pars gas field, igniting massive fires at the Sharon oil depot and a Tehran refinery, and plunging western regions into darkness by striking key power stations. A calculated hit on Iran's state TV headquarters disrupted Tehran's ability to control the national narrative. In retaliation, Iran unleashed a wave of ballistic missiles and drones on critical Israeli infrastructure, damaging the Haifa oil refinery, northern power grids, and fuel depots essential to military operations. The offensive then escalated as Iran struck urban centers like Tel Aviv, Bat Yam, and Ramat Gan with 1,100-pound warheads, collapsing apartment buildings and pushing the civilian population into chaos. This marked a grim turning point, from battlefield tactics to economic and psychological warfare, as both sides aimed not just to win militarily, but to break each other's capacity to endure. The June 2025 conflict between Israel and Iran brought unprecedented devastation, both in human lives and national infrastructure. In Iran, over 240 people, including 70 women and children, lost their lives and more than 1,200 were injured, many severely. Israeli airstrikes targeted critical sites, uranium facilities in Isfahan, missile bases, oil depots, and power grids, leaving cities like Tehran, Tabriz, and Mashhad deeply scarred. Iran's response was swift and brutal. Ballistic missiles and drones struck Haifa's oil refinery, northern Israel's power infrastructure, and densely populated areas like Bat Yam and Holon, where collapsing buildings led to at least 24 civilian deaths and nearly 600 injuries. Yet, these official numbers may only scratch the surface. With tight media control in Iran and military censorship in Israel, the real death toll could be far higher. Amid blackouts, misinformation, and fear, civilians endured air raid sirens and chaos with no end in sight. The full extent of the loss, both physical and emotional, remains buried beneath political silence and the fog of modern warfare. The international response to the Israel-Iran war has been swift and deeply divided, reflecting broader geopolitical rifts. The United States has backed Israel unequivocally, demanding Iran's surrender and signaling possible military involvement, though domestic concerns about escalation persist. European powers, including France and Germany, support Israel's right to self-defense but warn against regime change and urge diplomacy. Russia has condemned Israel's strikes as illegal and warned the U.S. against intervention, while China has called for restraint without openly siding with Iran. In the Middle East, Turkey has vocally supported Iran, while Qatar and Saudi Arabia have condemned Israel's actions and called for a ceasefire. India remains neutral, advocating de-escalation and offering diplomatic support. The UN has criticized both sides for civilian harm, but the Security Council is gridlocked. Meanwhile, global South nations like Indonesia and South Africa have condemned the violence and demanded an end to hostilities. The conflict is rapidly reshaping alliances, testing nuclear diplomacy, and destabilizing global energy and security frameworks. Keep watching Unscripted Affairs for more updates on Iran-Israel war and more global affairs.